Chicago Cubs. News today.
If you think the manager is the problem, you are looking in the wrong place. What is up, Blue Nation? How are you doing today? Let's be honest here. How many times have you sat on the couch, watched our starting pitcher give the game away in the fourth inning, and immediately started cursing at the guy on the bench managing the team? You are not alone in this. But the truth is, the gears of a baseball team start turning long before the first pitch of the season, and it is exactly on the people putting the roster together that you need to focus right now. There are quiet moves happening behind the scenes, moves that will not end up on magazine covers, but that dictate exactly whether you will be celebrating in October or crying in September. If you follow the Cubs closely, go ahead and leave a like to support the channel. And look, what is circulating in the league's hallways about our Chicago Cubs perfectly shows the front office's mindset. Do you prefer a team built with wildly expensive stars, or a roster assembled on a foundation of cast-offs and smart depth? That is the big question we are going to unpack right now. Chicago fans, pay attention to this, because something interesting is happening with the Cubs. Strong behind-the-scenes rumors are linking our team to names like Eric Lauer. And I confess to you that, when I hear this, a mix of feelings takes over me. As a passionate fan, I know we always want to wake up to the news that we signed the biggest ace on the market. I want that guy who steps on the mound and strikes fear into the batter with just a look. We deserve that. But, at the same time, I have been through enough disappointments to understand how our front office, led by Jed Hoyer, operates. His strategy is crystal clear. I see that the bet here is to win through smart depth, with replacement pieces that do not break the bank, and not with expensive stars. It is pure pragmatism. We know how exhausting a 162-game season is. We lose sleep when the rotation suffers injuries and the bullpen gets destroyed. So, on one hand, I understand the need to seek out less hyped pitchers, guys who come in to eat innings and hold the fort. But my reflection is, at what point is this market intelligence, or simply a lack of ambition from our front office, to take that definitive step toward the title? I am torn, and I know many of you are too. The numbers and market dynamics show exactly why this type of move happens. Teams like the Toronto Blue Jays or the San Francisco Giants have pitchers who often cannot secure a spot in their respective starting rotations. That is when players with the profile of Eric Lauer or Landon Roop end up becoming available for trades. The baseball market does not just live on massive contracts, it survives on small efficiencies. Now tell me down below what you think of this situation involving the Cubs. The reality is that Lauer has already shown in past seasons that he is a reliable starter and, when called upon, a decent reliever. The statistics show that pitchers with this versatility are fundamental at the back end of the rotation. They offer a safety net. For Chicago, investing in profiles like this comes at a considerably lower cost. The front office's goal, clearly, is to fill critical gaps without compromising the long-term budget. It is a classic move of resource preservation, ensuring the team has enough arms to get through the exhausting summer months without overloading the roster's main players. But I am going to tell you the truth, from the bottom of my blue heart. When we look at our division, when we look at the history of this franchise, we feel like we need a little more fire. I look at Eric Lauer and think, okay, he is a grinder, he will give his blood. But are we going to win a World Series like this? I want to see the Chicago Cubs dominating, demanding respect. We are a giant market. We have one of the most fanatic and loyal fan bases in American sports. Sometimes, I feel like we are always counting pennies to put together the back of the rotation, hoping that a guy who was discarded by another team miraculously finds the best form of his life here at Wrigley Field. It is frustrating. I support financial intelligence, I really do, but we need guarantees. We cannot go into the season depending on a reclamation project to hold down our 4th or 5th spot in the rotation. If the guy's arm fails, we are going to see leads turn to dust starting in the 5th inning, and that destroys any team's morale. My conclusion is that the fans' patience has a limit, and we want to see the front office's ambition match the size of the Chicago Cubs. A cold analysis of Jed Hoyer's strategy reveals a behavior pattern focused on mitigating risks. The front office's view is that huge contracts for middle-of-the-pack pitchers often become irreparable financial burdens. Therefore, they actively seek names that are off the main radar. The logic behind the possible arrival of low-cost players is simple. If the bet goes wrong, the impact on the salary cap and the franchise's future is minimal. Furthermore, teams that build depth at the back of the rotation manage to maintain stability. Baseball's historical data confirms that very few teams reach the playoffs using only 5 starting pitchers all year. Generally, franchises use 10 to 12 starters during a full campaign. Thus, having cheap options tested in the major leagues is a protection against inevitable injuries. The approach aims to ensure the team does not plummet in the standings when the inevitable physical wear and tear hits the main pieces. It is roster construction based on long-term survival. However, we do not live just on cold statistics. We live on the passion for the game. And what bothers me deeply in this whole story is not the player himself. If Eric Lauer, or any other less hyped pitcher, puts on the Cubs jersey, I will be the first to scream for every strikeout he gets. We support whoever is in our boat. My problem is with the message this sends. I do not want pragmatism to become a convenient excuse for the front office not to open their wallets when the opportunity to dominate the league knocks on the door. We see rivals making aggressive moves, aiming for the top, and sometimes it feels like we are always playing for a tie, trying to be the smartest team in the room instead of being the strongest team. Roster depth is important, without a doubt. But there comes a time when we need absolute certainties on the mound. We need the front office to look at our fan base and say, we are here to crush the opponents, and not just to survive the 162 games. The question left for you to reflect on today is this. What is the limit between being smart in the market and being complacent? Do you think building a team based on discrete and cheap reinforcements at the back of the rotation is going to be enough to take us to the promised land again? Because the risk of leaning too much on smart depth is ending up with a roster of average players who do not have the strength to go head-to-head with the powerhouses in the postseason. And we have seen this movie before. The ball is in the front office's court now. Every move, or lack thereof, is going to define our summer afternoons. Share this video in the family and friends group chat who root for the Cubs, and do not forget to subscribe. A big hug. Stay tuned, because if there is one place where baseball's behind the scenes never stops, it is here. Until next time.